Hi guys, I am Sarah Manning and I am super pumped and excited to welcome Jolene Lindsay from Jolene Dawn Counseling in Kamloops, BC to join me today. Hi Jolene. Oh, it kind of froze. So I'm going to say hi again.
I'm going to say hi, and Spirit already just said hi.
So guys, just as a heads up, if it stops, it is not your computer. There is no technical issues. Jolene and I are just both very powerful mediums and energy workers. And because of that, as a result of that, things always go a little glitchy when we go live or whenever we try to record things. It was very interesting training with her or, helping her and supporting her on her mediumship journey, because this would happen to us all the time.
It is a very classic way that I learned Spirit communicates with me through my work when my work went digital. So it's literally Spirit's exclamation mark to say, don't forget to introduce me.
I love it. I love it. So as mentioned, Jolene, I had the privilege of watching Jolene not only embrace her intuition, but also embrace her mediumship skills and abilities, as well as her gifts. It was an absolute privilege guiding her and, leading her and watching her grow into such a beautiful light worker. So thank you so much for letting me do that, Jolene. It was so much fun, as always. Always full of laughter. So let's talk. Well, before I actually ask you any questions or anything, do you mind sharing a little bit of your journey to Spirit with us?
Yeah, it's so Spirit just has beautiful ways of working. So back, but essentially one of the highlights in my life was passed away in my grade 12th year. And actually that's where Sarah and I know each other from. We were high school friends. So Spirit has always played in the background of my life, but I never actively knew how to work a piece of my life that was less intentional, I guess you could say, right? But very influential in different ways. And I just didn't quite understand. And I'm a counselor by trade. I'm a social worker. I do a lot of grief and trauma work. And through my career, I kind of saw when I moved into private practice, things were starting to happen. And around the same time, I saw this beautiful woman with pink hair on social media in this advertisement. And I was like, I know her. And I was like, oh, that's Sarah. And that's when I reached out, connected with you, and I couldn't believe it. And that connection, I'll never forget. I'm goosebumpy talking. When really this part of my journey started and got activated. And as we got to know each other, and I think probably about maybe a year after that, or probably maybe 2 years even,
Yeah.
I saw your embrace, my work really showed me that I had these energetic components to my work. There was these intuitive pieces to my work that were not part of my training. They weren't part of my therapist identity. They were something else, and I didn't quite understand. But I also knew I was on my own personal journey of just, kind of coming back to myself and enhancing my own intuition and really being true to myself. And that's when your Embrace Your Intuition course came. And I was like, this is where I'm meant to be. So it's been this beautiful journey. And then if we want to jump into where mediumship came through,
Sure.
it was after that and continue with you. And just, through that connection, and I would ask you more questions, and you got to know a little bit more of what was happening for me. And I'll never forget the day that you were like, have you ever thought about doing mediumship training? And I was like, you have no idea. I just didn't think that I could. I didn't think that was me. I didn't think it was possible. But really in my work, many of the people I was supporting, I was like channeling from their loved ones. That's what was happening. I was receiving messages from them, but I didn't know how that was happening, how to properly do that. Right.
So was there
when you approached me with that,
Oh yeah.
I don't think I ever would have asked you to do it, because I wouldn't have thought that I could have done it. Right. So I'm really glad you had the conversation with me.
I love that. I don't actually remember. I love how Spirit works, and I always know I'm being led, because I honestly don't remember doing that and stuff. But that's awesome. So, was there any hesitation to embracing the fact, the truth that you were a medium?
You know what? Because you had approached me with it, I was like, oh, good. I'm not crazy. I'm not full of myself. I'm not thinking I'm beyond my abilities here. She saw it. One of your rules was like, I don't reach out unless like it's really, really nagging at me, I usually let people kind of come to me. So because I was coming to like clarification around things and this and that, like, I think you were kind of putting the pieces together as well. And like, have you thought about, and again, like, yeah, I don't know if I would have been like, yeah, I can do that, Sarah. So my confidence built over time, but it was kind of your belief in me as well that was like, okay, if she thinks I can do this, then I can do this, you know?
Yeah,
because I didn't know what it would take, right?
I totally can resonate with that too. Like when I went to had my very, very first card reading ever, the lady was like, why am I doing this for you? You can do this. And I was like, what are you talking about? I can't do this. Like, what are you talking about? She's like, just watch, you'll see. I was like, oh, okay, look at this. 7 years later, full time. Everything. It's funny how that works. So I love that. I love that so much and everything. So and mediumship is so interesting because I do believe everybody can connect to their own loved ones, but I don't think everybody's meant to deliver messages from spirit on the other side. I think those that are interested in mediumship or just have like a little, like even a little nudge, I would be like, yeah, of course you're a medium, because if you had no interest or if it wasn't meant for you, you'd never do it. And especially since you helped people with grief already, you kind of were on sidelining it.
I very much did. And I knew that was kind of what was for me to like get to that point. I had to go through these stages. I had to go through my own growth, my own evolution. I even, went through a divorce at the time and lots of that stuff. Like there was so much in my life that was getting undone to become, more of this and make space for this too. So I see how all that unfolded, but even how my work unfolded, and it all happened around, when COVID started and all my work went online. And I really see the beautiful protection in that, because it allowed me to separate myself from my client and really energetically see what was happening. And that's why I talk about the internet issues, because it became a very classic way of communication for me and spirit. That's like their signature for me. But it was also really neat to witness what that was like. And now I'm starting to introduce in person and see where that's playing out in person sessions. But what's super powerful is that there's really no difference between the distance. Like I actually feel more powerful online than I do in person in terms of reducing other distractions and stimuli. And as I say that, my dog whapping at the door to get in, if you hear that. But like I reduce all those things and just, I feel like I'm way sharper online, believe it or not.
Oh no, I totally believe it.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, with phone readings, the messages come through so much clearer because I'm not worried about body language or facial expressions or anything. It's just like 100% what I receive. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So was there any big concerns for you before you started the coaching program?
I can't say. I can't really say. I wasn't afraid of it. If anything, I knew I was like doing it slowly and maybe less like a more diluted version. So I know how to drive a car, but I don't have my license. That's what I was like, I think I'm doing all this anyways. But I want to know how to do it properly. And I had done the same thing when I realized that there was a lot of energy work in the work that I was doing. And I trained in Holy Fire Reiki healing as well. I was like, if I'm already working with energy, I want to know how to intentionally do that. So this all piggybacked all around the same time too.
Yeah. I love that. Now, looking back on our time together and everything. Oh, that's really, oh, shoot. There was a question that I meant to ask you before. So, we were talking about so many life changes, and especially with COVID and everything. One of the biggest things I make sure to tell anybody, and I know I told you too, before I sign anybody up or allow them to work with me for the mediumship coaching program, I always give you a heads up. Spirit is going to clear out everything that does not meet your standards, and you're going to do a lot of healing. Were you prepared for how much clearing, or how beneficial was that heads up that I gave you?
So again, that phone call I'm telling you about, when you were like, oh, hey, do you think you would be interested in this? I remember, I picture myself in my room receiving that call from you, right? So yeah. I remember that moment. I was like, I'm already there. I'm already halfway through that process. It was already activated before I engaged. It was almost like this was going to be a part of my journey, whether I wanted it or not. And that's almost kind of what happened, is like the bus came and it was like, you're getting on whether you like it or not. Like you have no choice. And that's what happened. My clients were coming to me. It was like my work started to shift, and it was like, you have no choice, but no choice. This is just what's happening. So it was kind of like that. And I was already in the midst of it. And I was like, let's do it. Like, like at this point, I mean, I'm already like getting a divorce and doing other stuff. Like, what else? Take 20 pounds if you really want.
Wouldn't that be nice? I love that. I love that so much. Yeah. Why can't spirit take that away from us? Hello.
I'll tell you that if I would have activated this part of my journey 5 years ago, I wouldn't have been ready for that healing. Okay. So that's the other thing, is like, if I was like, I want to be a medium, I'm going to take this training, I wouldn't have been ready for that purging. Like, I think all that purging came in due time and thus presented the opportunity for these things. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love that you shared that. Like, if 5 years ago it came up, you would have been like, no, not ready. Cause that's so true too. Like, I think anybody that's considering mediumship training needs to consider, like, even if you have to wait a little bit, the waiting is important. It's not that you're not behind, you're not missing out on anything. It's part of the process of getting ready and aligning to what you need to do and what spirit's asking of you.
Yeah, because over these last 3 years and pre-COVID, I wouldn't have integrated the two. I was really forced to integrate that with my therapy. There was a lot of ethical things. There was a whole bunch of stuff. I was like, what's happening here, to create a really holistic practice? Like, so I wouldn't have been ready for all those shifts either. Right. Yeah. It was almost, I mean, I'm a big fan of divine timing. I cannot appreciate it enough in my life, honestly. And I know that that's the way things roll out. Right. So yeah.
I love that. I like that, we talk about divine timing and stuff like that, and that you can appreciate it. And that's a good ego lesson to learn, to be like, not on my time. Oh, that's the other thing I was going to say. It's like, if one good thing came out of COVID, I am proud to say that I had the opportunity to bring one more light worker into the world. So bonus for the rest of the world. We can all be thankful for one thing about COVID. It was bringing in a light worker into the world.
And honestly, for me, COVID was the most beautiful gift on my journey, because I did not take anybody else's opinions. And nobody worked out of our office but me. So I had 4 months of just me doing virtual work. I had the space to myself. I went through so much of and double checking my answers. I didn't have anybody to soundboard off of and take on their fears and their opinions and any of that. So I knew that I had the utmost clarity in all the decisions I was making in my life that were just mine.
Nice.
It was wild.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's always good.
And then you go into that, like, cocoon phase. You go into that real inward, like, this is the healing. You don't get to do this hanging out with other people necessarily. It was the like, and I'm an extrovert. So that was like my first time being super, and I loved it. And I have a lovely balance of the two now. So awesome. Yeah.
That's so awesome. What was your biggest aha moment of our time together? Do you remember one, or was there many? Like,
Sarah, with you, every time was an aha moment. And I like this because my clients get the same from me. And when you just said, I don't remember what I said to you, I say the same thing to my clients. Like, you have to understand what's coming out. Like the podcast I run, I have to listen to it before I post it again, because I don't remember what I said. Right. Because we just very intuitively spew out what's there, right? And I really trust what I'm saying right now is the thing that needs to be said right now, right? Yep. So with that, it's like every session we would have, you would have a guideline, but I mean, there were quite a few times we had to hijack that guideline and work with what I was bringing that week. And I loved your flexibility around that. So every week there was aha moments around that. And then no matter how hard you try to just be a coach or just be a mentor, you were getting regardless, like, bite my tongue, but here you go. And well, remember this. And I knew there was always this like personalized session, because you can't help but be guided, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Sarah.
Sorry, say it again.
Do you agree with that?
Oh,
Like,
totally.
yeah.
So you did cut out a little bit there. So I'll just paraphrase. It's like Jolene was saying, like, even though I would try to be just coaching, I would always be downloading and always be getting either messages from her dad who's passed or her guides. And I'd be like, okay, listen, we got to stop for a second because this is so freaking loud. I can't concentrate. And then I just, and then we'd laugh just like that and be like, oh, okay. And then once it was delivered, then we were able to move on.
Yeah.
Most
And that's,
times.
and that's classic. He hijacks you. Like it's funny. He is so pushy sometimes. And that was also really cool. So that was really special for me is that I remember very early in the session is you were like, your dad very much wants to be part of this journey with you. And I will never forget that because I've had like a bit of a connection with him since he's passed. And obviously it's a big part of my life and my purpose and many things, but I've never felt like he's walked alongside me like as actively. I feel like it's been a passive presence and a supportive presence, but this felt like an active presence. This felt like I'm going to help guide you. I'm be a part, include me. And that was really powerful. That was the first time I've had that kind of connection with my dad in the spirit world. Right. And that's really, really neat. And because he was a quiet man in life and he did kind of keep to himself. And this is the first time that he has stepped forward in his spirit form. Right. It was really neat. And I understand.
And very pushy. Let's be honest, Jolene.
Which was not him in real life, Sarah, which was also, so as you trained me about this is what someone quiet might be like, and these are characteristics, and this is how spirit might show themselves. It was really interesting to me because I was like, my dad is showing himself differently through his spirit participation now. That was really powerful.
So you it's so funny because when we talk about your dad, it kind of goes funny, of course, right? And that's expected. So you mentioned that he was very like quiet, but in the spirit world, and then you cut out. So do you mind repeating that?
In real life, Dad, you gotta let me talk. He does this when I run events about like things, and he cuts my voice stuff. Yeah. So you gotta let them hear me. He was more of a quieter man in human form, and in spirit, participation, he's always in the shadows and been a bit quieter and stuff. And he would be one of the spirits that would be like a man of few words kind of thing. So when he started coming in really pushy and really saying like, I want to be a part of this, and really pushy with you sometimes, it made me laugh so hard because I was like, yeah, amazing. Like he wants to be a part of this. Like I wasn't used to that. He was more of a passive presence for most of his spiritual life with us. Yeah.
I love that. So on that note, what was it that you appreciated most about working together besides connecting with your pushy dad?
All of this, Sarah. So you are so gifted in what you do, like so gifted. Thank you. That's something that like you had so much experience. And I think also your willingness to just like share everything that you could. I don't know how many times you would even introduce yourself as a new example would come up. And I'm kind of the same way. So it was just like this wealth of knowledge that you would just kind of pour out there so I could pick what was relevant to me on the smorgasbord. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
I know that not like one of us had the same training from you. And I think that that's so key. Like you would have, again, your training package and how you do it, but so much of it is individualized and personalized based on like maybe where my strengths already were, we'd focus on some other areas, or based on how I'm intending to use this in my life or my career and things like that. So I just loved that piece, but like, I just, you learn, like, I just learned so much from your experience, and you're just, again, you're so personable, you're so safe, like there's no judgment, there's pure encouragement, there's no room for self-doubt. It just is like this very strong hand holding of like just like dancing together, like you're doing this, you're already doing this, how do we do this, right? So I want to say like it's a safe, like sacred, secure space, but it's not like it is a full space, like that space is full, right? And I think you and I both are pretty high energy people too. So I also expected like you and I play off each other really well. So that was just such a cool vibe. Like I appreciate that, right?
Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you. And you're absolutely right. It's funny, like It's supposed to be, I've put it down. It was 14 weeks. It's down to 12. But it depends. Like, I think you and I were over the 12 weeks. My other client was over 12 weeks. There's another one that I'm just like, holy crap, it's almost been 6 months, but it's because of schedules that need to be worked around, different levels, and some things are just needed to be addressed. I'm definitely not the coach that goes, your 12 phone calls are up, out of here. It's like, when you work with spirit, you have to go with the flow. And that's something that I try really hard to impress on my coaching clients. Go with the flow, because if you do, you will be the successful medium that people look out for. Right. So I love it.
We can't control this, and everything does come in like perfect timing. Even some of the things we had to reschedule and things like that. It was like, oh my gosh, look at what happened this last week. Like, wait, I know why now. Right. It's totally great.
So was the not just the monetary investment, but the time, the energy, the learning, and the financial part, do you feel that it was worth the investment, and how has it changed your life?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like, this is a gift that like people dream of being able to have and do. And when I can offer, so I work with people to help them in their grief. And what is so beautiful is when you can use, for me, when I can use something like this to help hug their grief at the same time, whether I'm doing that, I haven't quite fully integrated it into my work as a formal mediumship. I will likely do that separately, but I know I'm using these skills when I say things that I shouldn't know about their loved ones, right? There is a different hugging of the grief and the healing process. And I feel like I have like both of the keys now. And I'm like, that's a gold mine. I'm sorry if that gets bleeped out. That is a gold mine. Like, you're getting two amazing healing modalities in one. Like, I don't know one person who is on a grief journey who hasn't explored spirituality by the mere nature that grief makes us question what life is even about and what life after death looks like if we've never even thought about it again. So I really get to like be the bridge. And the other cool thing, so the company I work for during the time of all of this changed their name. They rebranded to Therapy Collective.
Say that once more.
To Living Bridges Therapy Collective. And I was like, I am literally a living bridge.
That's amazing. I love that. I love that analogy. I always say phone calls to heaven, but you use the bridge. What a beautiful analogy.
And I wasn't part of that rebranding and just like dropped name on us. And I was like, this is genius. This is supporting my journey. That's another check mark from spirit. I'm doing the right
synchronicity, baby.
Exactly. And that is how so much of my life is supported. Right. So yeah, it's beautiful. I love to introduce this into my life. I love this, all things about my life. It was really funny. Someone was just asking me a question the other day, like, you get to know people and they're like, if you had an opportunity to see a fortune teller, would you do it? I was like, yeah, daily. You have no idea. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. I love that. I love that. So on that note, and I mean, it's always such a privilege to watch somebody grow and everything. And the one thing I want to share with people, and Jolene, I hope it's okay to share this, is it wasn't all sunshine and roses. There were times where I would have to push Jolene out of her comfort zone and be like, I love you. Don't shoot the messenger. You need to look at this. Like this is, you can't fool spirit and you can't fool, the universe. So look at that. So even though there was pushing, not necessarily boundaries, but pushing out of comfort zones and forcing you to grow, how was that for you?
I'm holding onto my chair right now. That's so funny. Hold on. That's so necessary. I mean, that is necessary for all of us to grow. We don't get bigger muscles without feeling the pain. We need to see the things we can't see, but we also need the encouragement to go like, yeah, and it's okay if you weren't seeing that because you were purposely not seeing that or whatever. Right. So, and again, that's the no judgment piece.
Right. I was going to say, but did you how was that to swallow? Like somebody being like, hey, I'm calling you on your bullshit.
No, it's so necessary, right? And it's easy to swallow when you come from just a very factual, no judgment place. Like, this is just it is what it is. Don't attach emotion, don't attach things to it. This is just like the next, like, this is blocking your road. If you want to go forward, you're going to need to deal with that. You're going to need to move it. Right. So I kind of saw it very much as that way. And then also recognizing that you are very guided in what you say, and what comes out of your mouth is what comes out of your mouth. And like, just that personally sometimes too, right? It's like a secret passcode. Take it. Yeah. Take it. Like, you know, she's telling you things that like you're supposed to know right now. So yeah, it's not, never once did I feel like, oh, if anything, it was like, I found myself trying to problem solve things a lot. And, you know, because I'd be like, what about this? What about that? And then I was this. And like, there were times where you were just like, okay, I was like, thank you. And it was like, get me out of my own head or out of this puzzle that I've created here or something. Right. So that was super helpful, because I was also like navigating life at the same time as I was learning the skills, because they would interject with each other, and then I'd experience it in my life and I'd be like, okay, so what was this? Like, was this my life teaching, or was this something I was receiving? Like, and I'm like, I want to understand things. So I was overthinking a lot of that stuff too, right? Just to gain clarity and separation to things. And so it was an active process. Like, wasn't overwhelming timing wise. I still worked. I still mothered my children. I worked this in. It just became a part of my spiritual practice, my healing practice, a part of an educational practice. It just fit its way into my life. Right.
Perfect. I love that. On that note, what would you say to someone that was considering signing up with me to embrace and nurture their mediumship abilities and program, like the coaching program?
Yeah. I'm going to say, if you're considering it, you've already made your decision.
I love it.
That's really what it is. You've already been guided. Like, you've already, if you've seen this beautiful pink-haired woman somewhere and you've been guided her way, then you may as well sign the dotted line. Like, you could book a session, join the intuition course, or take the mediumship training, because that's probably your sign, right? But yeah, I mean, obviously, like I think you had even said that at the beginning of this interview, like if you're considering it, then it's likely that you do have a bit of that gift. Otherwise, people who don't have that gift wouldn't consider it. Do you know
Absolutely.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And most people that I talk to, who also are able to really access their intuition and mediumship stuff, have known this from a young age.
Yeah. Some, and I thank you. Yeah. Some people know it from a young age. Other people don't. And like, for me, it wasn't until I was in my 30s, right? Like, I hit 30 and it was like crack. And I love how you said that the universe was like, whether you like this or not, you're getting on that bus. Cause that was my thing too. I was like, no. And Spirit was like, watch us.
Yeah.
Right. I absolutely love it. Jolene, thank you so much for spending time with me and anybody else that ends up watching. It's so appreciative. And it's, I think one of my, I love being able to share so much with others, but actually seeing people take what they've learned, my clients take what they learned, and not just change their lives, but help change the lives of others. There's no other better gift that I could ever receive than that. So good job. I'm so proud of you, and watching you has just been so much fun. Thank you. Oh, sorry. You cut out.
Of course. My dad says things too. But for me, it's just been so special, and I've been so appreciative, Sarah. And I remember for so long being like, my 17-year-old self is so grateful our paths crossed back then. And that's also a piece of spirit and universe that I love, is that man, connections in life, and we suddenly make sense of all those things years ago. I'm so grateful for all of that.
Yeah. Me too. I love that. Well, thank you, Jolene. I'm just gonna thank you so much. It's just so lovely. So perfect. Okay, I'm just gonna stop the recording and I'll